Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grandstand Sports Data. In today's video, we're going to be giving you the 2025 NHL Free Agency Tracker. Stay tuned because we'll be taking a look at the most recent NHL moves and news that has gone down over the last few days. And then we're going to cap off the video with giving you the futures on what teams have the best odds to win the NHL Stanley Cup going into the next year with these new transactions that have gone down. So let's get right into the video. All right, so let's start off with the guys that are basically ranked from 16 to 30, and they're ranked based on us here at Grandstand Sports Data. And how do we basically, classify these guys? Well, we have a dominance rating here at Grandstand Sports Data. All it is a weighted average of the last 3 years, and we're factoring in their Corsi for percentage, and we're also factoring in their plus minus. So those are the two variables that we are using to make this dominance. I guess you would call it player quality stat. And then we also have a second one, which is the NHL 25 in terms of the video game. Yes, I know it's a video game. Some people may roll their eyes at that, but we're trying to just gauge player quality here. And those are the two numbers that we're going to keep our eyes on. And as you could see, when we were getting through 30 skaters, an 85 overall in NHL, that was the lowest that we could go for guys available. So we're talking about some guys that are some top names here from 1 through 30. Let's just start off there. You can see all the way down at the bottom, guy like Ivan Provorov. He has re-signed. He's got an extension with the Columbus Blue Jackets, 7 years, $8.5 million there for Columbus. Connor Garland has also got an extension from the Vancouver Canucks. He's got 6 years, $6 million, so 6 times 6 there. Brock Nelson, he's going to be re-signing with the Colorado or being extended by the Colorado Avalanche. He's going to be 3 years, 7.5. So not too bad there, especially with some of the signings that we'll touch on going forward with Colorado. So Colorado, didn't make the biggest splashes, but have made some moves to where you could say, they may have a big shot, and we'll show you in the odds a little bit later on how well their odds have improved. Matthew Knies from Toronto, Marner left. We'll touch on that a little bit later. Created some space, and one of those, places that Toronto wanted to spend money was on Nyes, and I gotta agree with them. 6 years, 7.75 million, not too bad. Real young guy. He was a restricted free agent, and now he'll be staying in Toronto for 6 years. Jonathan Drouin now going to the Islanders. See, he went 2 years, 4 million, a little bit less than what people would say. I think it's because of the age, and that's going to touch on some of the guys that you're going to see going forward, like Jamie Benn. He's 1 year, 1 million, obviously because of his age. But you can see from the dominance rating, he's been basically very close, if not, yeah, the second best skater here, as you can see just from this page. It's not factoring in the next page, but the second best skater here. And you got to remember, this is on ice performance. So the last 3 years, his performance has been better than almost everybody here, except for the next guy, who's Brent Burns, who will be going to the Colorado Avalanche, which I think is a great depth piece for Colorado and for their defensive pairings. You're having Brent Burns, a guy who's been the best statistically, just remember, just statistically on paper here on the sheet for your skaters ranks from 16 to 30. So I think that's a huge addition there. Next, guys like William Eklund, he will be staying. He'll be extended in San Jose. Patrick Kane will be staying in Detroit. He'll be re-signing for one more year over there in Detroit. Claude Giroux will be staying in Ottawa for 1 year, 2 million. So those are kind of the older guys that will be either staying in their basically in their same location. Paterka will be changing spots. He was participated in a sign and trade, so he will be going to Utah, 5 years, 7.7 million. Then we got Martin. I'm not going to butcher his last name. I don't want to kill him, but he has been extended from the Washington Capitals, 7 years, 6 million per. I think that's a good number to get him at that 6 million per. You've seen some of these guys going at 7.5, 7.25, maybe on the younger side when you're talking about a guy like Nyes. But you got to remember, Martin, he's 6 million. That is a pretty solid number to lock up a guy. Cooley, he signed to just underneath 4 million at 2 years. He was a restricted free agent, left winger for New York, a little young, and he will not be moving on. He'll be staying put there in New York. Sam Bennett was obviously, he was talked about all throughout the playoffs. Will he stay? Will he go? Well, Sam will be returning to the Florida Panthers at 8 times 8. Another guy that's been talked about is Bowen Byram from Buffalo. He's been talked about a lot in trade talks, but now it seems like a lot of the teams are starting to cool off, except for one, and that's St. Louis. St. Louis is actually in hot pursuit for him. Buffalo has had reports. Their general manager has said, though, that if any offer comes in for Byram, they will be matching it. That's what has been the latest reports. Do it as you will, but it looks like if Byram does get any offers, it looks like he will be staying put in Buffalo unless there is a trade on the table for St. Louis. All right, so let's jump to the top 15 skaters now. We're going to start all the way down to the bottom with Dmitry Orlov. There really wasn't much on Dmitry to first start this research. We want to say that we've been doing this for almost maybe a week, maybe a little bit more than a week. And Orlov was real quiet until this last couple of days. He got signed with San Jose, so good for him. Good for Orlov. He will be moving on to San Jose. Next guy, Mikael Granlund, we want to talk about. He's actually one of the worst performers here when you talk about the dominance rating, 9.2. So not the greatest when you're comparing him to all these guys here, but 3 years, 7 million he got from Anaheim. He will be going to Anaheim, and continuing his career there. Brock Bozer, he was a guy that had a lot of teams throwing their hat in the ring to obtain his services. It looks like he's going to be staying with Vancouver. I want to say for that money too. I mean, 7 times 7 and a quarter. I don't want to say he wouldn't have got it somewhere else. I'm just saying that a lot of teams threw their hat in the ring, and for some reason he stayed in Vancouver. Uh, so a little bit of red lights went off in my head when I started seeing that. Marco Rossi, he was a guy, he's a restricted free agent. Looked like that a lot of teams were actually thinking about putting an offer out for him, and the Wild look like they're going to match any offers. So they'll take on any comers, basically. Gabe Velarde, he was another guy, just like Dmitry Orlov. Dead silence on this guy. Haven't heard anything. Restricted free agent. Don't know if there was any contract negotiations. Uh, has there been any offer sheets? Has there been any teams making offers? Nothing. Haven't heard anything. Even though in the beginning when we first started our research, a lot of teams were calling. So I guess that means that he's not available if you do the math. Aaron Ekblad, he will be staying in Florida. You can see 8 times 6.1. So good for him. They're re-signing. They're bringing basically everybody back there, bringing the whole band back. Noah Dobson, sign and trade. He's going to Montreal. 8 years, 9.5 million. Pretty good there for Montreal. They will also had their hat in the ring for a guy like Jordan Kyrou, as you can see. So Jordan Kyrou, he's not necessarily up for grabs. He's not exactly a free agent, but he was made available. We seen early, and we seen it early with Montreal. Now that's started to lose steam since he's had his no trade clause kick in. But now Toronto has entered, and Montreal has kind of fallen back a little bit. So I think if you wanted to switch this, I think you would move Toronto over to the one spot and Montreal back to number two. I think even Montreal's fading, so you can maybe even remove them. And Toronto's becoming the main team to look for his services. Now, a lot of people are going to argue this and say, well, that doesn't make sense. If there's no trade kicked in, he's not going to be traded. Well, I would push back to you and say that's a bunch of bullshit, right? The player can go wherever he wants. If St. Louis comes down to Jordan Kai and they say, hey Jordan, Toronto wants you. We have a trade lined up. What do you think? If he wants to go to Toronto, guess what? He's going to Toronto. Don't think because there's a no trade clause, like he's there and he's stuck. That's not how it works. Moving on next, we're gonna move on to Tavares. John Tavares, kind of been underwhelming when it comes to the playoffs. Don't know. If I was Toronto, I would have let him go, but he seems to be staying. 4 years, 4.4. Not too bad there. Matt Duchene's another guy. He's been extended with the Dallas Stars. It's about to call them the Cowboys. I mean, what would it make a difference? 4 years, 4.5 million for him for Matt Duchene. Ellers was a guy. I didn't see Carolina up there. I know Carolina fans will say, well, we've been in this contention for Ellers this whole time. And I honestly, from all the research that I've been doing, there's been a lot of teams. I could almost pick 10 teams. I didn't know Carolina was a front runner, but they actually got his services. 6 years, 8.5 million. Not too bad. Great player for Brendan Moore to coach up again. All these guys are Brendan Moore. I will say that the loss of Burns, though, I know he's older. He doesn't have what he used to, but where he is in that Colorado lineup is perfect. They don't need him to be the top dog. They just need him to contribute. I think that's perfect for them. I think it's a big loss for Carolina. Evan Bouchard, he's been extended from the Edmonton. I think pretty much everybody knew that was coming. 4 years, 10.5 for him. Brad Marchand, he will be re-signed by the Florida Panthers. You see, he's 6 years, 5.33. Marchand playing 6 more years of hockey. That's a little bit of a eyebrow raiser from me. He looked a little bit cashed in terms of the regular season when he was with Boston. Looked like he was getting a little older. So now you got to think about he's going to play 82 more games for 6 more years and playoff hockey for a team that's a serious contender every single year. I don't know if he'll be able to make it. That's not a knock on him. I thought he was phenomenal in the playoffs. I'm just saying at his age, I think that's a lot of hockey. Mitch Marner, number one guy off of the board. Sign and trade. I think that's what we're calling it. We don't necessarily know. I think so much was moving at the time. He could have just moved over. Don't know. But we believe it was a sign and trade. 8 years, 12 million per. That's huge for Las Vegas. I don't know if that's going to take them over the top. You got to remember they do have an aging decor. That's something that you have to take a look at. But for scoring, having Mitch Marner, having Eichel still, having all these guys, Las Vegas should be a huge player going forward. All right, so let's move on to the available goaltenders. We're just going to touch real quick on this because there's not many out there, and there's not many that are actually sought after, I guess I would say, for lack of a better term, in the market. You can see all the way down at the bottom, we're talking about Ilya Samsonov. He is not going back. He said he wants to test the market, so he's not going back to Las Vegas. Looks like the Islanders and the Panthers are front runners for his services. Looks like the Panthers may win that. I'm seeing a lot because they want him as a backup. That'd be a pretty good backup behind Bob for the Florida Panthers. Moving up is going to be Jake Allen. He got extended with the New Jersey Devils, 5 years, 1.8 million. 5 years is a lot for an older goaltender. I want to say it's along the same argument. I don't want to say it's an argument, but a lot of the same things that we touched on with Marshawn, you could probably apply to Jake Allen. Then you got three goaltenders for Anaheim Ducks. You got Huso, Mrazek, and Dostal, which I statistically, when you're looking at them, it looks like Dostal is the better goaltender in terms of everything here, and it looks like Anaheim extended the qualifying offer to him, and they'll offer, they'll probably match any offer that he gets. But I don't know, holding three goaltenders. I don't know. I mean, if you have three goaltenders, you might as well not have one, right? I think that's the notion that people say. Just moving on though, John Gibson, he was traded out of Anaheim into Detroit, as you can see here, and basically Mrazek was in that deal. Moving on, Frederick Anderson, he signed before free agency, before all this hullabaloo, so we just put him in. And he's honestly, if you look statistically with the quality starts, so this is the quality start percentage. Over the last 3 years, he's averaged a 64.6 in terms of his quality starts, and then his goal saved above average is a 3.2. It's best here. Those are the two best numbers on the board here for goaltenders. He got a 1 year extension at 2.75 million for Carolina. So I do think Frederick Anderson is the best goaltender on this list. I know that's I don't I'm not exactly knocking Demko. I'm just saying that Anderson's numbers do look a tad bit better. Demko did get that 3 year and 8.5 million extension though for him with Vancouver. So me, I'm not the biggest goaltender guy. I think that goaltenders can lose you a series. They can also win you some too. It depends what the goal, if the goaltender really gets hot, but no goaltender really gets hot for like 4 rounds in a row. People make a big deal out of this. Oh, a hot goaltender. When you really look back, there are some games where the goaltenders had a bad game and something else happened to where they still won. You still got to look back at it, but I don't think that there's a correlation between a high-paid goaltender and winning Stanley Cups. I think those days have been over since the Brodeur days. I think that a really good average guy can win a cup for you if you have a great defense in front of him. I think you saw that with Corey Crawford with Chicago. I really do. When you have Oduya on your third pairing and you have Corey Crawford as your goaltender, he's good enough. That's it. That's all you need. You need good enough. All right. Well, with all that said, let's take a look at the odds to win the Stanley Cup. Whose odds improved? Whose odds did not improve? And it looks like it's a runaway, right? Looks like the Florida Panthers at the plus 575. Me too. I think that the Panthers are going to be around for a very, very long time. Maybe certain injuries, if they get hit with an injury bug, may derail them a little bit. But the Panthers look far and away as the best team in the NHL. And now they're just bringing back the band. So that's tough. Colorado has improved, and I think they have improved to be on Edmonton's radar. So that plus 800, I think, is accurate with each other. Vegas inching up a little bit closer with that plus 850. I do like Vegas. I like the coaching. They've won the cup before. They have the experience. Everything's there for them, right? So I think those teams that you're seeing, Florida, Colorado, Edmonton, Vegas, all teams that have been there, won, and if they haven't won, like a team like Edmonton, they've been there multiple times, right? So they know what it takes to get there. You just need to get over that one last hump. Carolina's another team plus 900. I think they should be further away from the pack. I think once you fall off of Vegas, you're starting to talk about a lot of the teams that are very similar. I think the plus 1,000 that you see from Dallas should be closer with Carolina. So Carolina should maybe be plus 1,200, Dallas plus 1,200, and then you start going into Tampa plus 1,600. I think that there should be this big gap between those top four teams, which happen to be almost all in the West except for one team, and then the rest of the score. That's my take on it. I will say though, when you're trying to spot some real value in hockey, there's a few places to look. One of them, my favorite, especially in the futures market, is look at the trade deadline that's going to be coming in the next season. Trade deadlines, the guys who move. If I know that we say in a lot of sports, remove yourself from the public, but some of those sexy pickups in hockey, especially in hockey at the trade deadline, they may push a team over the top to win the Stanley Cup, and that's where you could probably find the best value. And I know that's kind of, it doesn't make any sense, but you got to remember that hockey's not a big market. It's a small market sport. So a big name to you may not be a big name to somebody else, and then they can't really correlate, or they can't really, take that information as fast as you can, and then you may be able to spot that value. So that's why this is important. As we go on, so we're probably not going to cover on hockey for a while now until basically the preseason. We're going to show you how to update a model, how to do a few more things that we want to really uncover here at Grandstand Sports Data, like what you should do to update a model before the season starts, what you should be looking at upcoming for the season, and then also what should you be doing, like what are some of the prep material that you should do before a season. We really want to show that in our hockey and NBA materials that will be coming up next, but they won't be coming up until the season starts, so just remember that. All right, so thank you guys for tuning in to the NHL off-season video. We hope you had a great time and picked up some awesome information. Now, don't forget to subscribe to Grandstand Sports Data for more great shows like this one. Also, don't forget to give this video a like, share with your friends, and then leave a comment down below. That's all for now, and we'll see you guys in the next one.